applications are very, very difficult in online mode. So what do we mean by a knowledge system? Basically, a knowledge system has two components. One is that it's a very organized structure, and it also has a dynamic process in it. So it appears contradictory because when we expand it, we'll realize what it really means. So the organized structure looks at generating and representing content, components, classes, or the type of knowledge that can be domain specific or characterized by domain relevant features as defined by the user or the consumer of this knowledge. It also has reinforced by a set of logical relationships that connect the content or various components or attributes of this knowledge. So they are not arbitrary. They have a very cohesive and a very logical relationship between each other. For example, why is it that so many of you use cotton fabric clothes in India? It is related to three things. One, it is basically related to the climate. It is also related to the economic activity of growing cotton, weaving cotton, etc. And it has evolved as a very healthy pattern over the last few thousand years. Whereas your polythene and polycot, whatever you people use now occasionally, are all very recent and they are not compatible with our climate. In fact, very large number of population today has skin disease because they use lot of synthetic clothes which prevent absorption of sweat, which is very important for good health in India. Typically tropical climate. Okay. So all these logical relationship between what we do, what we eat, how we eat, what we talk is not arbitrary. It has evolved over a long period of time, and that's one part of the knowledge system. There are other aspects also. We'll touch many of them down the line. Okay. So because it's organized, two parts, it is more closed. Any organization tends to close, and very strong organizations are highly closed, which means they don't allow changes to come from outside or these to go outside. Okay. But contradictory, it's not only organized, it's also dynamic, means it is open. As strong and closed it is also dynamic. Because it's dynamic, changes are possible, not that changes are not possible. Yet the changes are slow, sometimes very slow, and eventually, or sometimes it becomes explosive. When the changes are delayed for long, everybody gets frustrated and it explodes. When that happens, we call it as reforms. And one good example of is how the Protestant sect of the Christianity emerged after almost 800, 900 years of mainstream Catholics. And such things have happened everywhere, even in the Islamic and the Hindu sect. Such explosions where reforms have taken place and things have split are more common than uncommon. Okay. Today, many independent knowledge systems exist and have been more competing than cooperating with each other. This is one of the problems and tragedy of humanity, where people, instead of taking the best from others, they seem to compete to show one is better than the other, not just in pieces, but wholesale. My system of knowledge is better than your system of knowledge. We will see much later that no system of knowledge is 100% good. There are flaws, there are limitations, which have to be overcome for the good of everybody. Okay. All said and done, knowledge systems are evolved entities. They are not overnight. And they are characterized by behavior of people who use or are dependent on this. Various types. There are fundamentalists who said there is nothing other than this. There are practitioners like many of us. There are observers, scholarly people looking at what is happening. There are many skeptics who don't trust anything, and a large number of blind followers. This constitutes people who follow a knowledge system. This is apart from the material aspect, based or related to the knowledge system, which is also dynamic. Today, for example, everybody is worried what is the price of petrol or diesel. Where we worried about this 50 years back? No, because nobody had two-wheelers. Will we be worried about this after another 30 years? No, because everybody will be using electric vehicle or hydrogen. Okay. So many times a new material aspect will also come to our knowledge system, not necessarily remaining permanent. Whereas many other things have been there for last 4,000-5,000 years. Will it be there after another 500 years? We don't know. Practical examples. Look at that. So if you look at the medical knowledge system, dominantly today, Ayurvedic and allopathy. These two are the dominant ones. There are others also, like homeopathy, Unani, Siddha medicine, naturopathy, so many things. Similarly, in education, you can have the Gurukula model, the Madrasa model, the convent education, the public schooling, state, CBSE, whatever. In the economic part of it, you can have barter system, commercial banking, post office banking, Islamic banking, money lenders. These are the economic knowledge system. Many or most of these are consolidated over centuries of use. For example, money lenders have been there for the last 3 to 4,000 years, well documented. Okay. Consolidated over centuries of use. They are influenced by cultural factors, social, economic, political, and in recent times, resource and environment factors are also heavily influencing the knowledge system. For example, we are now selling sand. Selling sand. In fact, even in my childhood, I had not heard this. Whenever people wanted to build a house, they would just take a lorry or most of the time a bullock cart, take it to the riverbed, pick up as much sand as they want, bring it and construct the house. You are only using it some labor cost. But today, sand is one of the most prized items. It's almost a mafia now. Similarly, water. Who was selling water? In our scripture, selling water is a crime. But today is one of the most profitable business. So this is typically how changes happen in knowledge system. More changes are happening because of material, but other factors, cultural, social, economic factors are also influencing changes. You can also see what is closed and observed open in all these. Okay. So how do we understand a knowledge system? All knowledge systems exhibit expressions, either explicitly, implicitly, or in a subtle manner during use. Its characteristics can be seen in the way society handles its economy, education, law and governance, gender and other equalities and inequalities. Okay, all these make up the knowledge system: economic activity, education, law and governance, gender and other equalities and inequalities. One can also infer from many socio-cultural and attitudinal aspects of its citizens, their behavior, conduct and ethos. For example, we have a festival called Vana Mahotsav, where we worship the trees. No society in the world, no other knowledge system worships the trees. Why is it? That is because our knowledge system has highly dependent or interacted or revered the trees in our life. But trees give us food, Tree gives us shelter. Tree gives us material to build houses and boats. So many things. Okay. So it's been part of our growth of our life. So we revere that, and we have, whereas other cultures, other knowledge systems which evolved did not have so much of trees, neither variety nor numbers in their in their geography. So they have no value for trees. You will see that later, okay? So unfortunately, many aspects of knowledge system is linked with religious beliefs in all cases, strongly or moderately or subtle. Slowly, with the advent of modern science, this is becoming more objective, less emotional. Okay. So now people question everything. If they don't find an answer, they reject it. If they explore and find a convincing answer, they not only accept it or reinforce that. Okay. For a long time, people were not questioning. We'll see that. So all knowledge systems have evolved over time, culture and geography, trade and interaction. These are the main factors. They have evolved over time. They are time tested. Culture and geography of the place where they evolved has made a significant role. Trade and interaction has influenced and made lot of changes. Some less, some more. Some are lost over time. There have been certain knowledge systems which are permanently lost. We have absolutely no idea what it is now. There have also been dramatic shifts in certain countries over their evolution over a period of time, shifting from one knowledge system to another. For example, Japan, in late 16th century, they decided to shift their entire education into a Western model. Till then, they were conservative Buddhist and whatever Shinto as they call it. Okay. Turkey did that in early part of 20th century. Suddenly shifted from what one calls the residual of the Ottoman Empire to a Western system. And again, now it has reverted back partially. North and South America was completely indigenous knowledge till around 16th century. And North America became completely Western knowledge in 200 years. South America is now partly Westernized. China changed from a Buddhist dominated, Confucius, Taoism, all mixture of that. Completely materialistic, Marxist material philosophy from 1950. Russia also changed up and down. North Korea now, one knows that it is a one-man knowledge system. Please no back channel talking. Yeah. Many have adapted or reformed to add value to their knowledge system, lest it should be found redundant. See, the only way knowledge system is valuable and people use it voluntarily and willingly is if it allows people to make changes. If it is not allowed to make, then lot of issues happen. Rigidity comes, conflict comes, violence sets in, and very reluctantly under pressure of violence and threat, people succumb and slowly adapt, but grudgingly, but behind their back, inside their house, they do what they want. Okay? Many knowledge systems are outdated, rigidly deployed, mostly using undemocratic forces and violently. It is tough since balance is needed for society, and society changes much slower than an individual. Individuals change much faster. Expecting the society to change is lot more difficult, lot more slower. You can see here, trusts and food habits, sports, all this, we make very quick changes and we enjoy or we feel we are comfortable, whatever it is. Okay. I'll come to this later. What knowledge systems operate? Many knowledge systems operate. only very isolated societies have maintained their original knowledge system and they have little or no interaction with others. You find them in Andamans and in Amazon and many other places isolated. A great majority, however, use 2 to 3 different knowledge systems for different purposes. For example, what we are doing now, our online seminar, is predominantly a Western education system. But I'm sure all of us are wearing our own food and we have our own dress models. We must have had lunch, which is an Indian lunch. And most of our living style is including some back channel talking I heard was in Marathi. Okay. So nothing surprising that we have a mixture or a blended knowledge system. Okay. Which are the 4 dominant knowledge systems you find in the world now? The first is Western knowledge, which is found mostly in Europe, North America. It covers 50% of the world population. Its other name is modern scientific system. It also relates to 75% of the current economy. That is the power it has. English is an economic language. It is not our mother tongue. It's not our cultural language. It is an economic language of the world. The Arabic knowledge system, predominantly found in Middle East, North Africa, Indian subcontinent, Central Asia, Indonesia, and Malaysia. It covers about 30% of the world population, but it controls 70% of the world economy, petroleum-related economy. And so, because of that, they are important. The third knowledge system is Indian knowledge system, predominantly in Indian subcontinent, Southeast Asia, Tibet, and Japan. It covers about 25% of the world population, but it also relates to 25% of the current economy and growing. The fourth knowledge system is the indigenous knowledge system. It exists in all parts of the world in isolation, more so in India, Africa, and South America. They cover only 5% of the world population, but they are the roots of all these knowledge systems. They are the predecessor to all other knowledge systems. Okay. And no society now lives exclusively on one knowledge system except the indigenous knowledge system. Many live with a blended version of 2, 3, or 4. I'll come to that. Okay. So which is so what we are focusing on now, it is clear that currently in India, we all lead a life based on blended knowledge system, dominated by Indian knowledge system and considerable Western knowledge system, mainly our education, industry, economic activity. The formal education, economy, and industry is dominated, but our lifestyle, food habits, cultural factors, the geography we live in is all related to the Indian knowledge system. It is here we are questioning what really IKS is and attempting to put more IKS into our existing life, because now we have problem of overload and more of disadvantage of Western knowledge system. Okay. For example, our healthcare is unsustainable, and India already has the world's largest population with what is called AMR, antimicrobial resistance, which is a very serious issue, as serious as COVID-19, because the largest percentage of population who are almost immune to antibiotics are in India. That is because of overuse, misuse, overdose, rampant use of antibiotics for the last 35 years. Okay. Dream is to live significantly by IKS to see whether it is possible. Okay. So what is Western knowledge system and a little of the Arabic knowledge system? These are something that evolved over 3,000 years in the Greece, Rome, and the Middle East, what one calls the Fertile Crescent. All factors have played significant role. There is no one book that is sacred, and they are monotheists, and which does not include female and child gods. So female representation is not there, children representation is not there. Okay. only adult male representation that constitutes about 25% of their population. That is all their representation is. Its main character is belief in redemption at death. The moral compass grounded in belief in only one God that is male and in only one book. They are called the Abrahamic. Whether they are the Jews, Christians, or the Muslims, each of them have only one sacred book. It has been institutionalized, meaning having a prominent single authority very early. For example, Vatican is about 325 AD. So approximately 1900 years back, Vatican got set up and it's still continuing. Same is the Jewish and the Islamic thing. Rebelling or questioning of tenets is not permitted and results either in excommunication or death. And that's exactly how Christianity started, because Jesus seemed to have made a statement that the temple in Jerusalem is a den of thieves. He referred to all the priests there as thieves. And that's the reason why he was eventually crucified. And from there, Christianity or the New Testament started, okay? Tenets in these are very harsh, very cruel, and they are very acquiring nature, all the time trying to grab something. For example, no heaven for non-followers, eye for an eye, death to kafirs. These are the kind of tenets on which this is built. Very surprisingly, even in the West, very close to Greece and Rome, there was a kingdom called Carthage. And by 5th to 3rd century BCE, contemporary of the late Greeks and early Romans, Carthage was the richest city in the world. This is in North Africa, what is today Tunisia and Morocco. And they had a famous goddess called Tanit, who is a female goddess, okay? All this was erased out, okay? All this was erased out. And this is what one calls the Fertile Crescent between the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea. So this part, what is Iraq today, this part is the Old Testament, a little here, which is, and this part is predominantly the New Testament. And here is the Arabian desert where Mecca and Medina. This is a region where all these developed. Okay? So what is Indian knowledge system? This is something that evolved over 5,000 years. So compared to other knowledge systems, we are time tested better. 5,000 years, almost double of others. Here also all factors have played significant role. However, there is no one book that is sacred, and we are polytheists, including female and child gods. We are highly non-individualistic. That's why we have hundreds of gods, hundreds of saints and philosophers, and hundreds of books to follow. Our main character is belief in rebirth, which is not there in the other sects, and the moral compass grounded in two words called dharma and karma. It has either not been institutionalized or it has multiple institutions around different philosophies. That's why if you don't like one, you can move to the other. If you don't like that, you can move further. If you don't like anything, you can disown. Being an atheist is as valid as being a theist. Okay? Rebelling or questioning of tenets is permitted and very frequent. That is why we have multiple philosophies which have shaped our socio-cultural behavior. The tenets in these are very gentle, very bountiful, and giving in nature. It says, let everybody live well, let plants live well, let animals live well. Let people who don't believe our system also live well. Let everybody in the world live well. This is the kind of tenets. Okay. And what shaped is interesting. This is what shaped us. This is the kind of background and geography which has shaped our thoughts. I mean, if you can't look at something so beautiful and feel violent or angry about anybody else. So that's the reason why all these tenets were this is one of the last villages before Mount Everest. And this is where all this Vedas, Shastras evolved. In such beautiful ambience, you don't have a negative thought in your mind. So what of India that is proven? Let us take a look at how India was in 200 CE, 200 current era, means 2000 years back. Compare that to the rest of the world. This is a very mature situation. This cannot emerge suddenly. It had taken 1500 to 2000 years before that for the gradual pattern to consolidate to what we see. 2000 years back, it mainly centered around two things: natural resources and products made out of natural resources, which was basically work of skill, industry. At least in earlier time period, people came to share economic values, which is trade. This also led to mixing of culture, language, and knowledge. More than mixing, transfer and translation. We will see that later. Sometimes misrepresentation, and in many cases, stealing also. Stealing of knowledge happened. You see here, I don't know how many of you have seen this image before. This is how India was looking exactly 2000 years back. The west coast of India and little of the east coast. And you can see here, this is what is today's Bharuch. Then you have a place called Sopara. Sopara is the place which is today a small railway station on the Western Railway in Mumbai called Nalla Sopara. Then there is another small place called Kalyan, which is another station, and so on and so forth. Mandogara, which is today Madgaon, all the places up to Tuticorin, little on the east coast. What is it? These were all trading ports. Every 30 to 50 miles on the west coast, starting from here, all the way here, you had trading ports which were trading with people from West Asia, little of Central Asia, Greece, Rome, North Africa, Egyptian Empire, plus people from eastern part of Africa. Okay. All these people were trading with us. What is it that they brought? Very little. What is it they took? Plenty. We will see what they were taking. Okay. So this is a very mature situation. Before that, it looked like this. See, 4000 years back, it was like this. Lot of people trading, but ships were not crossing here. They would go very close to what is called coast hugging. All the time, making sure when you look to your left, you will see land, because they were not confident of navigating in the open sea 4000 years back. But they were still trading. They were trading with whom? People on the Indus Valley. This is how the Silk Route eventually, land route, started. But predominantly it is this. And there are some places even now, of course, Dholavir is a famous place which is excavated, which was a very active place 4000 years back. Lothal, okay? All this. And this Indus or Saraswati river basin was a very, very important thing. I'll come to that way. Large trade, which means they had large resources and skill to do it. And what happened is this, see, they were bringing wine and gold from the West and taking spices, ivory, metals, cloth, aromatic flowers, silk, precious stones, plenty of them. Not just here. This is the Silk Land route, very small. This is the main route. Now 80% of the trade was by sea through here, and only 20% was the Silk Route. This is a document from Roman time called the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea. I don't know when it became Arabian Sea, but this is how it was put in the Roman documentation. What is interesting is this was a meeting point for traders from Southeast Asia, including China, to come all the way here and trade. So people from Western Asia would come here, people from Eastern Asia would come here and trade, both on the East Coast and on the West Coast, more so on the West Coast, in fact, much more in Sri Lanka, what is today Sri Lanka. Okay? And you get this word, you use the word monsoon, comes from the Arabic word mausam. This is a trade winds which brought people from eastern part of Africa all the way here, and people from here came here. This is important, both East Coast, place like Arakimedu and Korkai, which is modern Tuticorin, and West Coast like Buziris, which is very close to modern Cochin. Okay. It's also very interesting that when Vasco da Gama came to India, he reached the southern part of Africa and he was not sure whether he will reach India. There he met some traders who told them, yes, you can reach India from here, but you please go to an island called Madagascar off the coast of Africa. So at that point, when he reached tip of South Africa, he called that name Cape of Good Hope because he got hope that he can reach India. And in fact, he met Arab traders who took them from Madagascar all the way to Calicut. Okay. And you see here, this is before Alexander's invasion, the Academian Empire. Oh. Birana, please stop talking. I mean, you're all teachers. So this Academian Empire is just before Alexander came, which is, and this was their empire, stretching all the way little of North Africa, almost up to edge of Greece, Turkey, modern Jordan, Syria, all that, Iraq, Iran, entire Afghanistan, today's Afghanistan, and western part of India, up to the Indus River. And this is about where the limits of Alexander's army also came, will come. But what is interesting is in this empire, you see how much money was being collected from different parts. This is the revenue collection. Very little here, maximum here, even though the geographical location of the empire is very small compared to the rest, but maximum revenue came from here. The very rich, one of the richest parts of the world was the Indus Valley. What is interesting is even more. Romans seems to have changed many things. And this is the image of the world then. There was no North America, South America, no Australia, okay, no Antarctica. This was the known world. And this is the Roman Empire at its peak. So Rome had captured many things, including only the small Nile Valley, the entire today's Israel, Jordan, Syria, all that, and ancient Greece. This is Rome. Okay, this is Rome, Italy. They had conquered much of England. They had not gone to the Scandinavian country. This was the Roman Empire. What is orange in color is all the places where Roman gold coins have been found now. In the sense, in the last 500 years, these are all the places where Roman gold coins have been found. This is Roman Empire. So nothing surprising to find Roman gold coin in Roman Empire. But why are you finding so much Roman gold coin here in Sri Lanka, eastern part of India, plenty in the west coast, more so during what is today Kerala? That's the importance of Roman trade. Romans would bring gold coins, take spices, silk, cotton, ivory, precious stones, works of art, etc. etc. So the question is, India was so rich with its knowledge system. Obviously, a knowledge system drives the society. Question is why many knowledge systems claim an element of sacredness, that is infallibility, God's command. They say this has been told by God. Who tells? Some X tells why it's been told by God. If you ask X, did God tell you? He says, no, God didn't tell me. God told my forefather. Did he go? Your forefather, was he told by God? No, no. He says his great grandfather was once told by God. So this is the way the story goes. Okay. Practice over the years have shown all knowledge systems are inadequate for various reasons. Changing context makes it very hard to adhere. Many tenets are never tested and when done so questioned or fail. Only hope is if there is correction, self-correction, adaptation, allowing change and reforms. If all this you must abandon, okay? You see here dramatic conflicts in knowledge system. This is a very interesting thing. This is Galileo defending himself against charges of blasphemy, which is put to death because he said, in my telescope recordings of the heavens, Earth revolves around Sun. So immediately Vatican had a committee, called him and told, Bible says Earth is the center and Sun revolves around it. You are saying Sun is the center and Earth revolves. Therefore, you are put to death. It exactly happened because he was put under house arrest. They didn't kill him, but from 1632, when he made this announcement, till his death in 1642, he was put under house arrest. He was very popular, so they didn't physically kill him, but they put him under house arrest. Similar thing happened to the Big Bang. There was another Vatican seminar on November 22nd, 2001. See, you have to be cautious. All knowledge systems can be very rigid and very subjective. Conflicts and contradictions in every knowledge system is common, like what you experience in your department or in your university. So many rules are ridiculous. You don't know how to manage. Same is here. So the greatness of a knowledge system is not how many followers are there, but how your knowledge system allows you to manage contradiction, how it allows you to do corrections. That is very important. Flexibility and adaptation is the key to success. Rigidity is a seed for violence. Another silly rule, every knowledge. You see, as recent as about 6 months back, in December 2024, there was a world championship when Gukesh won, but Carlson had refused to participate in that. In another open tournament, he was not allowed to participate because that tournament had rules which says people who participate as contenders should wear suit and tie. This fellow was wearing jeans and jacket, so he was not allowed. So you can see that many rules in knowledge system are mostly silly. They may have been designed to maintain a social order, but they definitely are silly because you have now in India many schools which insist on coat for children, and in summer only a fool will wear a coat in India. Winter, I can understand. In summer in Chennai with 42 degrees centigrade and 99% humidity, which sensible person will wear suit and tie and coat? This is a problem. Okay. Major decline for the Indian knowledge system was it was completely suppressed by the Arabic knowledge systems from the period 12th century till 18th century. It was highly suppressed. But because it was suppressed, people still maintained somehow, not explicitly, but within homes. And that's why you will see large number of marriages in North India is only in the night. Those days there was no electricity, remote villages, daytime people could observe. So quietly they would do. Lot of things would be in the night. Only in South India, much of the marriages are in the morning because we didn't have this Arabic suppression, not too much. Okay. It's probably one of the reasons why South India has maintained Indian knowledge system better than North India. Okay. The real damage to North Indian knowledge system came from the British colonial rule. See here, this is Macaulay. I have traveled across the length and breadth of India. I have not seen one person who is a beggar, who is a thief. Such wealth I have seen in this country, such high moral values, people of such caliber, that I do not think we would ever conquer this country unless we break the very backbone of this nation, which is our spiritual and cultural heritage. And therefore, I propose that we replace our old and ancient education system with the English model. This is Macaulay's address to the British Parliament on 2nd February 1835. Much worse, he says he doesn't know Sanskrit or Arabic, but concludes that English is better than Sanskrit and Arabic. This is the way it was done. And see how they were treating us. Royal Simla Club. No dogs are Indians. In fact, at least it was no Indians or dogs. They were placing us worse than dogs. And you will see this. Why you go and stand before your HOD, your professor, your registrar, wherever you go to any government office, you stand because that was the rule British made. And for you not to stand, you see here, Kursi Nashin. So a certain person was allowed, you need a certificate from the government to sit before a British officer. This culture still prevails in your college and you also practice it with your juniors. Very unfortunate. Okay. We had no freedom to sit. Please remember that. And our education system is very bad today because we follow 99% of Macaulay's programs, procedures, and laws even today. And our vice chancellors and HODs love to practice over others. Bureaucracy, legal, everything is terrible because we have completely rotten rules aimed at suppressing us. Today we get suppressed by the bureaucracy. Okay. So you need a certificate from government saying, so deputy commissioner has to sign saying that you are allowed to sit when you go to an office. So what do knowledge systems do? Knowledge systems give you a cultural strength. It shares wisdom collectively over years, both oral and written. It has an economic value where there are so many things. That's why we have so many festivals, because people who grow flowers, people who grow plantain leaf, people who prepare small things, everybody should have economic value. Only then everybody survives. Okay. And this provides an identity. Okay. So the knowledge system composes of an identity, culture, received wisdom, and economic value. Specific to IKS, it's this tremendous form of diversity of culture, oral and written traditions of knowledge, core and related dharmas for action and conduct, and tremendous utilitarian and welfare aspects. For example, today it has changed after the Islamic rule for some thousands of years, 1,000 years almost. But almost all temple were feeding people. You will find this only in 2 districts of India. One district is Dakshin Kannada, the other district is Chikmagalur district of Karnataka. These are the only two districts where almost all the temples feed en masse. Dharmasthala, Kolluru, Subramanya, all these places feed lakhs of people every day free of cost. The whole idea was temple make sure nobody goes hungry in the society. That was the main idea. And it also provides economic value in terms of distress like famine or, for example, well-documented cases of Padmanabha Swami temple in Tiruvananthapuram, which had shared gold and riches to common people 3 times in the last 800 years, whenever there was famine or flood and misery for people. So this is how it was. All said and done, all these knowledge systems are unsustainable. The real sustainable knowledge systems are what you find here. This is in Amazon. This is a community housing for 100 people. You see, almost 20 families, on average 5 people per family stay here. There are no walls and the common space belongs to everybody. Only the families reside below the roof. Everything is open. When the population increases, they move out. Another 30, 40 will move away about 2 miles from this place, clear a small part of the forest, make housing like this and live. Completely sustainable. Okay. There are other sustainable societies, for example, in Andamans, large number of tribals. Okay. These are the tribals who, some of them I have met myself. Many more. In fact, very large diversity of tribals starting from North Andaman to South Nicobar. There are about 15 or 20 different tribes all along. And each one has its own. What is common is like this. See here. They all share hunter-gatherer society, mainly fishing. Okay. Even now with bows and arrows. And don't think this is interesting because this North Central Island Andaman is, they survived the tsunami which killed people in Nagapattinam, Puducherry, Tuticorin in India, because they have a very good culture, practice, knowledge acquired over thousands of years, which says whenever tsunami occurs, for them tsunami means sea water will recede first, which is in the opposite direction. Therefore, their rule is whenever the sea water recedes, which is what happens at the beginning of tsunami, they run in the opposite direction, climb a hill, climb a tree, and wait there. So, in fact, this entire population climbed the trees here, stayed on the tree for almost 30 hours till the sea became calm after all the turbulence. In fact, the tsunami wave traveled 4 times across the world and came back, every time receding in height. So after that, not a single person died, whereas people in east coast of India, close to 1 lakh people died. So that is native wisdom. And you will see native wisdom very rare. Wherever there are indigenous population, you will have native wisdom. Take a look at this. This is a Greek vase in 4th century BC. That is 2600 years back in Greece. Somebody made a vase with a drawing like this. Somebody shooting bow and arrow from the leg. Can you believe such skill? Today, even in Olympics, they can't do this, but they do it somewhere else. Look at this. This is in 2016. You have World Nomad Games that was held in Kyrgyzstan, and this girl does this. I don't think any of our Olympic people can even do half this, right? So native knowledge is important. You have to see the proper context and value, not just dismiss it as some rubbish, okay? It's important. You see here, before organized religion took over, Africa was like this, tremendous diversity. At least 20 different main groups of people with different belief system, habits and all, living peacefully. Today, in the last 1,000 years, it has become like this, completely vertically divided between Islam and Christianity. Both are organized knowledge system and religion, okay? So NEP has put in IKS just to understand things better and see whether more and more IKS can be put in our life, because IKS is more sustainable than Arabic knowledge system and more sustainable definitely than Western knowledge. In fact, the only guaranteed unsustainable knowledge system is the Western knowledge system. Guaranteed. There are issues of IKS. Employability, if you learn IKS, people willing to take up IKS courses, acute shortage of trained faculty in IKS, and additional burden on already burdensome curriculum that we have. These are some of the references and books written in the last 5 years, as soon as IKS was made part of every curriculum by UGC. Each one has good and bad. In the sense, each one is focusing on certain aspects. Most of them are focusing on scriptures and traditional knowledge. They have not focused much on making common teachers and students understand IKS. So if you know IKS, you can enjoy these books and get value from that. But to know IKS, you need either to be sensitive to it, practicing it already, or willing to read something else, which I will suggest. This is one book which will tell you about entire human evolution and knowledge systems of the entire world. And it's one of the most important books written in the last 50 years, because it was published in 2014. In 10 years, close to 70 million copies have been sold, and it has been translated into 65 different languages in the world. The only language in India which it has got translated to is in Tamil. Amazing book. This book is more important than all the books prescribed in your syllabus, because this tells you about the entire world correctly. Therefore, you understand others, you understand yourself, you also understand India, etc. Okay. Specifically, how important IKS is, no, none of the other books tell you, but this book will tell you really. This is that book, which was published only 6 months back. It's a book called The Golden Road. Clearly tells how powerful IKS was, how valuable IKS was, how valuable IKS can be if you can incorporate. In particular, it tells for 1,200 years, the world's richest country was the Indian subcontinent. It remained the richest for 1,200 years up to 16th century. From 16th century, it started declining. By 18th century, it had already declined. By 20th century beginning, it had been finished off. We were at our peak, contributing 37% of the world GDP. 37% of world GDP. An average GDP of 27% for over 1,000 years, making us the richest country in the world. But that was destroyed by Britishers because they converted a industrialized and a skill country to an agriculture country. We were only growing food for our needs to survive for the next day. All our trade was destroyed. All our work of skill was destroyed. We had machine-made clothes coming, replacing handloom. Everything was destroyed. Slowly it is now picking up, but it will take a long time for us to have significant contribution to the world economy. But this is an interesting book, which also tells for 1000 years, the most important language in the world was Sanskrit, and every kingdom in the world, including West Asia, Central Asia, China, Southeast Asia, India, in every court, they wanted Sanskrit scholars, and those Sanskrit scholars were preferred those who graduated from Nalanda University. Nalanda University for about 800 years was the equivalent of what is today Harvard. So very, very beautiful writing, and more interesting, William Darrell has at least 12 videos on YouTube about this book and other things. It is so impressive and so convincing. I think you should take time to look at that. Okay. There is special focus on IKS by UGC. They have a separate division of Indian knowledge system, separate funding, separate support for seminars, workshop, book writing, everything. And in conclusion, IKS is important, and many useful aspects have neither been given its due nor evaluated effectively in the context of our lives. IKS has to contend and compete with other knowledge systems, many of which are very coercive or seductive. Fast food, internet, jeans and t-shirts, very difficult to compete with that because the entire younger generation is hooked on this. They want fast food, they cannot live without internet, and both boys and girls are in jeans and t-shirt because it's convenient. Jeans means you need to wash it once in 6 months. T-shirt means very easy to wear and wash. Okay. Modern mathematics, technology and life science, particularly biological and pharmaceutical, now rule the roost all over the world. Almost 99% of the world population are related to this because yesterday or day before you have taken, or maybe some of you have taken Dolo in the morning and come to college, or you take paracetamol, you take that, this. Most of you cannot live without your mobile. Most of you use a two-wheeler or a four-wheeler. Everything is centered around technology and life sciences. The question is how, where, when, and how much of Indian knowledge system to be positioned in our life. For example, using Indian knowledge system, you cannot make a mobile phone, you cannot make internet, you cannot make an aeroplane. So all these things are very clear. Do you still want to use IKS for what, why, how? You need to think. Now that we have climate problem and other things, there is no future for Western knowledge system. Be very clear. Because every Western technology is more destructive than the previous one, more unsustainable, causing all kinds of inconveniences to everybody except people who make money. And they also are not really escaping that. They may shift from, may spoil India, collect money, go and live in England. Okay, that much they will do. The people in England will make money, spoil everybody there, go and live in Switzerland. What will people in Switzerland, where will they go? They cannot go. There is only one earth. Okay. So this is the issue that we are facing now. Okay. Now we have about 10 minutes time for discussion. So feel free to unmute.